Spectrum here on this Cox Media Group station. We're welcoming back for the first time in, let's say, 5 years, Davina Jones?
10 maybe.
10 years? Wow.
Wow.
And I saw Dr. Jones at an event that she's sort of going to talk about today, teens. She was at a pageant, Miss Teenage Tampa of Alpha Kappa Alpha pageant. And good morning and welcome. How are you? How long have you been back in the area?
Thank you so much. It is so good to see you.
Good
I know we're so
too.
excited to see you at the AKA Teenage Pageant. That was wonderful.
Right.
Sitting right behind you. It's like,
That's
oh
right.
my goodness.
I know her.
The universe just does that, right?
How about that?
So yes, I've been back home. This is home for me. And I've
Sure.
been back about 2.5 years. I was away for about 20 years, and I met you right in the middle of those 20, about 10 years ago. And we had a great time. We were talking about my earlier project choices at that time.
Right.
So yeah,
just about one more inch back away from the mic and you'll be okay and I'll be okay. Well, I understand that on Saturday, July 9th, this is being broadcast on the day before the 4th of July, so as in the 3rd of July. And Saturday the 9th of July from 12:30 till 2:30 p.m. at the Robert Saunders Senior Library, 1505 North Nebraska Avenue, there's something called a Great Camp.
Yes, you got it. The Great Camp.
How great is it going to be? Tell us a little bit about this in terms of what is it in terms of what's going to happen there that day.
Oh my gosh, this is a passion project, okay? And so the Great Camp it's a little bit of an educational and an inspirational workshop, empowerment workshop for preteens and teens. So we do a little bit of both. So we have different segments and different activities to really introduce them to different educational components. So we had, for example, last year the swag team where we talked about nutrition and eating well. You can't get your swag on if you're not healthy. Swag is what they refer to as their outer appearance, but we want to have inner swag as well. So we talk about eating whole foods versus processed foods. Then we do other educational pieces where we introduce them to various career options. We bring in different engineers, scientists, entrepreneurs, and the students. It's amazing because they literally get a chance to have this hands-on access, right, to individuals who are real-time doing such great work in the community. And so last year, I'll never forget, one of the participants said that they had never seen so many doctors and lawyers and engineers in one setting. They hadn't seen that. And so it was always something that was so far away. And then we do empowerment pieces too. So it's not just about, here is something that you can pursue or survey as a career option, as a path. Maybe you're good at this, but we also focus on that inner part of them, faith in themselves, belief in the fact that they are great. They are great.
What a good time to do it because school is out in Hillsborough County until August 10th. And what is a student to do besides, getting a sore elbow from going in the refrigerator and all the texting, the crook in the neck with the texting.
Thumbs.
Yes. Let's talk a little bit about last year. I didn't know this is the second time you've done it?
This is going to be the third Great Camp, but it is the second year. No, that's good. You're counting well. So we started Great Camp last year. It was the first time we did it. We held 2 Great Camps. We had one in Hillsborough County last year, and we had one in Pasco County. And it was absolutely phenomenal. And so last year we had different folks that come out and kind of do what I said earlier, introduce individuals to these different components, education, empowerment pieces. And so we're at it again this year. So this will be our second year doing Great Camp. And what we do really is, when I birthed this project, I birthed it again as a passion piece. But this is the kind of work that I've always done. It's just a new name, Great Camp. But it's really the kind of work I've always done. Several years ago, I launched a little mini workbook project called From ESC to PhD. Because
I remember that title.
So I was an ESC student in Hillsborough County, slow learner, and it's documented. So it wasn't just a label.
At an early age, you were written off by some people. You were classified. You were categorized as not going to make it.
Yes.
But you surprised, I won't say the odds makers, you surprised a lot of people, including including yourself, you think your dad is surprised?
Yes, I would say yes, but at the same time, I think they always had faith. And Dad is in the studio with me, and he remembered in first grade when my first grade teacher wanted to hold me back, and maybe she had good reason. And from second grade on till high school, I was always in, the developmental classes. In fact, my first semester at college didn't even count towards graduation because I was in all remediation classes. So, and I still graduated in 4 years because I doubled up later, went to summer school. So this great camp is designed for individuals no matter where they're starting from. They could be starting in the honors classes or they could be starting in the special ed classes. We bring them all together to make sure that we are supporting and celebrating the greatness within ourselves. And that greatness can manifest in different ways.
Do you share your story?
I do, and it's amazing because
what about the looks on the faces?
Oh, you can tell, and students, they become very forthcoming with where they are, and sometimes they'll come up and they'll have tears, especially the older ones, the teenagers. They'll come up and they'll have tears in their eyes, like, I'm in those classes now, and I really didn't think that I could do anything else. That this was the end of my life. And so, this is an absolute passion project for Great Camp to help individuals, regardless of where they are, where they're starting from, and even if they're starting in those honors classes, there's still different puzzles, pieces to the puzzle that we give them that they still might not have gotten. So we don't take it for granted just because someone, is in honors classes versus another class. So it's definitely one of my passion projects that's kind of grown from there.
What have you learned from last year to help you better prepare for this year's Great Camp?
Oh, I think what I really learned, and I don't know, some people might say, well, that's just a cheap answer, but honestly, what I learned is that they really need it and they really want it. So, sometimes we second guess if what we're doing is effective, if what we're doing is valued, if they're receptive to it. But their response to Great Camp last year was a bit overwhelming. I had one of my own nieces to say to me, "Can we do this every Saturday?" And it wasn't just fun. I mean, it was not just fun, and we made it fun, but the activities were very directed, we had a point in the activities. This year, we're focusing really on communication skills. So we're still bringing in our dream team speakers, our excellent speakers to talk about different career paths and whatnot. But in between that, we're doing communication exercises. And so we've got a lot going on in Great Camp. We can't do it all in one camp. So it's important for me to be creative, to switch it around and create different modalities, so to speak.
How would you compare? You've spent quite a bit of time in Jacksonville, Duval County. Duval. And,
you know that?
Yeah. And also, and then you've done a camp in Pasco. So how would you compare Duval County to Pasco County to Hillsborough County?
Right.
I'll let you start or finish wherever you want in terms of, well, I know in Duval County, and I mean, there was some great challenges with the school system not being accredited for a while. Have they turned it around?
They've had their challenges. I'm not very intimately involved with the school system, but that's really interesting you asked that question, Dale, because the day that I started to even write the ESE to PhD workbook, I have to tell you this, and I know our time is limited, so I'll make it a short story. I was watching a special on CNN. Soledad O'Brien, I think, did the special Black in America or something like that. It was an educational piece. I think it was in that series. And they went to a young man's house. They followed, the camera crew went, the principal or somebody went to this young man's house to say, hey, you're almost there. Come back. You can make it. We're going to help you. They knock on the door. The young man answers the door, and then he closes the door when they say, come back. He just closes the door. And I literally start crying, and I left my apartment, and I was driving through downtown Jacksonville. And I said to myself, if I could just help one person like that, Of course, I want to help more. But
at
that,
least one person.
yes, but that became my inspiration for ESCDP, because what I saw was that this student had lost hope. This student lost faith in his potential, in his future, in his own greatness. And so project after project has kind of led to Great Camp. And I have to say this too, because Great Camp in particular, although it's evolved from all of my different works, in particular, it was birthed after I had a conversation with Calvin Mackey. So I know some individuals are familiar with Calvin Mackey. He's been a featured speaker over at Hillsborough Community College, Black Brown College Bound.
Sure.
And so had a conversation with him after a segment once, and was really inquiring about some mentorship. And so what he did was gave me an assignment. He gave me an assignment. He says, why don't you create a speech camp? And that concept turned into the Great Camp. And so his concept of mentoring was, we don't have to sit on the phone and talk. I'm going to give you an assignment, and then you work it. And let's see what becomes of it. And so, quite frankly, I haven't even had a conversation with him since that time, because I've been so full of purpose and passion to make it work, to make it happen, and to reach these young kids' lives.
Right. Let's move down to Pasco County from Duval.
Right.
It's mainly a rural county.
Yes.
Water on the west side.
Yes.
Rural and hills, and
Yes.
St. Leo College and
Yes.
Pasco Hernando Community College.
Right.
How would you compare? What was the challenge out there like in Pasco County?
I have to tell you, I know there are various demographics, right? And so when you talk about the rural community versus maybe inner city community, you certainly have different demographics. For example, even the technical things, when you say register for Great Camp and register online via email, little things like that can be very challenging depending on if we're in Pasco County in one of the rural areas versus the city and inner city and so forth. So those were little unique challenges from county to county. But I have to tell you what really is important is no matter what county these students are in, they all want the same thing: hope. They want to know they can make it. They want to be validated, and everybody wants to be validated. Whether you're 85 or 5, you want to be validated.
Then you come to Hillsborough County, the second largest metro area in the state, the third largest state in the country. Was that a cultural shock when you came to Hillsborough County? I mean, it's quite a big county. It's 1 million people.
It hasn't been. It hasn't been, and maybe the shockness will come later. I don't know, but honestly, I'm not really shocked by the experiences that these students bring to the table. 1 in every 3rd child has been molested. We all know what the graduation statistics are, right? And so I have all of that in mind when I'm talking to students, and you can't judge that just based on what they look like from the face. And so I don't take anything for granted when we're hosting Great Camp. I'm addressing their internal emotional needs, because I know what stats say about who's been touched inappropriately, who's been told by a teacher that they're dumb, or maybe the teacher didn't say it, but you know it because of how the teacher responds to you, right? And so I'm very cognizant of all of that in the Great Camp. And so the ultimate goal is for these preteens, and teens come too, the ultimate goal is for them to leave inspired, believing in themselves, but also exposed to possibilities. And that's really important for me, because I think one of the key differences between a person that makes it and doesn't make it is their level of exposure. What have you been exposed to?
Now, when I hear you say this about the Great Camp, I couldn't help but think, like the children, well, somebody said every Saturday, that's a bit much, but quarterly, maybe? A mini camp, because there's so much, it's like going to somebody, we're having our annual program, and it was so good, so engaging, until you mean have to wait 12 months until we have it again?
I know, right? Well, I have to tell you that's one of the things that you're now tapping into, Dayle, is the fact that I have a vision to eventually have an academy, okay? So that's down the road, but we got to start somewhere, right? Don't despise the small beginnings. And so, yes, right now, it's starting out annually, but, anything can happen. We've been very fortunate. A huge part of Great Camp is funded by me. I take my own money and put into Great Camp because that's how much I believe in it. But then we've been fortunate fortunate to have different partners. Last year we had Attorney Barry Cohen from the Cohen Law Group.
Right.
He was one of our underwriters, and we were able to host Great Camp at the Ferguson Law Center. And this year we have the Tampa Black Heritage Festival as our co-sponsor. And so these co-sponsors, they really help to offset the budget. And sometimes it's not a monetary exchange, but it's just the resources, shared resources. And the more resources we can share, we can eventually do Great Camp once a month, and then eventually perhaps we can turn it into our own academy.
Right. Now, even though it's one of the co-sponsors is the Tampa Bay Black Heritage Festival, it doesn't mean that this is strategically or necessarily just for black students.
Oh my gosh,
you have a cross-section. It's like United Nations in there because tell us about the diversity.
Yes, let me see. Okay, so last year we were so fortunate because you're right. You know, yes, we do know that there are certain challenges that tend to maybe impact economic groups, right? Social economic groups, and sometimes that automatically means ethnic groups.
Or a class situation.
Exactly.
Economic class.
Right, exactly. So, but again, we make sure we cast the net and not just a little hook to get one kind of fish. So we try to cast the net because here's the thing. When you have students, and this is one of the things we've seen with integration, you know, I know there's some debate about, you know, integration and so forth. One of the great things that comes with integration in public schools is that you have kids teaching each other, and they bring their joint experiences. And so we get a chance to benefit from that too in Great Camp. So last year, when we started Great Camp, we had African-American students, we had white Americans, we had Latino American students. We even had two of our very treasured students are diagnosed with autism, and all of the students, yes. So all of our students, we understood, they were coached, and they had an opportunity to really make sure that everybody is accounted for, that everybody is celebrated, and anybody can contribute to the success of the group because they do group activities, right? And so it was really powerful to see these students with different experiences, different levels of maybe education, if you want, or capabilities, to still see them demonstrating their value, their worth, their talent, their skill level. Everybody is valuable.
I would be remiss, Davina, if I didn't ask you about the parents in terms of parental support. And I'm going to say it. Maybe we need something. Maybe we need a Great Camp. Don't laugh over there, David Jones. Maybe we need a camp for parents to learn how to parent more better.
Dale, you're all up in my little vision board, okay? So one of the things that
and I'm not criticizing parents, but when the students go home with such enthusiasm and asking questions, they need to they need to have their parents exposed to maybe a different kind of syllabus.
You are absolutely right. So one of the things, you know, when I started to write out the plan for Great Camp, it included different age groups, and it also included a Great Camp for parents, right? So we haven't gotten there yet, but listeners, you just join in and support us, and we'll get there. So yes, because if the parents aren't reinforcing this at home, then
it's all for naught.
It can be a challenge. The student has to find another way to hold on to what they've gotten from Great Camp. But now here is the good thing about Great Camp. It is mandatory that a parent or guardian come with the child to Great Camp.
Not the drop-off?
No,
Operation Drop-Off?
No.
What time do you want me to come back?
It is not a drop-off situation. Although
it's not a babysitting service either.
That's right. Although I do give the choice that the parent can be on site even if they are not in the session. But I have to tell you, most of our parents were in the session. And that was so incredible because the parents get a chance to take in. Because you think you're just teaching the kids, right? No. You're teaching those parents at the same time. You're teaching the parents.
So you're teaching the students in front of their parents.
Yes. And I got pictures to prove it. I've got pictures to prove it. I got pictures to, in the pictures that we have, you can see our students last year at the Ferguson Law Center. You see them sitting at their tables in their groups, and then you see the parents sitting at the other tables spread about. In fact, the group picture we took, I never released the group picture because the group picture almost looked like we had more parents than students. When we did a group picture, we say, who wants to come and take a picture?
And that's
very cool.
sometimes that's a good thing.
It is. So now that I've said it, I need to release the picture.
Well, let me ask you this. I would imagine that there is a challenge to stop spending so much time on that smartphone device and actually communicate.
Right.
Communicate. What happens when you ask them to introduce themselves or what they want to be when they grow up and that kind of thing? I don't know if you do anything like that.
Right. We do. Well, this is very strategic because I don't ask them as the first question. And when you put together projects like this, sometimes you have to do it almost like a songwriter. So you have to understand psychology and flow. So when you're writing a song, you know where the first verse is, maybe the chorus and the bridge. So I do a lot of that when I'm putting together Great Camp. So I don't ask them that until I have become transparent with them. And that might sound small, but it's really big. So one of the first things I do is I make sure that I engage them and I win them. I let them know I'm here for you. And sometimes that's my ESE story. Right? And then once they get a chance to see my heart and they know I'm there for them, and then when I start to ask them, so what is it that you want to do? You know, what has interested you? What are you good at? And then they are actually very forthcoming.
Wow,
Yeah.
that is great. I want to know the numbers in terms of the numbers last year and the numbers expected this year.
So,
and I'm going to say this disclaimer. If it doesn't matter about the numbers,
right, absolutely,
whether they be 2 bus loads, 3 bus loads, or just 1 van load, it's the quality of the presentation. Tell us about the numbers.
Well, last year in Hillsborough County, we started off with 30 students. So we want more, but
that's 2 van loads.
We started with 30, and we had a blast last year with our 30 students. And then Pasco, we only had about 20 students in Pasco, about 15, 20 students in Pasco. And believe it or not, some of those students actually came from Hillsborough County. So we had a few parents that brought their kids to the Pasco camp.
Because there's Wiregrass High School, there's Wesley Chapel, and all of that.
Yes,
yeah, sure.
So we had about 15. This year, because we teamed up with William Saunders and Tampa Black Heritage Festival, we're really hoping to get a minimum of 50, but we can max out.
Now that's a bus load, 1 bus load.
Yes.
And sometimes it doesn't take a lot to render a quality, because sometimes the numbers can become, I won't say unmanageable, but sometimes it gets to be too ambitious.
Right.
You're trying to do quality.
Yes, we are.
Wow.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. And we feed them.
Okay.
We feed them when they come.
So it's only 2.5 hours right in the middle of the day.
Right.
And if they have an appetite, young people,
we'll feed them at the top of the hour. Yes.
Wow. Wow. How can people, at this point, this is the 4th of July weekend.
Yes.
It's just a few days away. You sure have a cutoff. How can they reach you to let you know their interest?
All you have to do is go to DavinaJones.com. That's Davina spelled like David, D-A-V-I-N-A, Jones, J-O-N-E-S. Go to DavinaJones.com and you click on Great Camp. When you click on Great Camp, you're going to get the instructions there to notify me, to let me know that you want to bring your youth. Everything is right there. You just basically RSVP by emailing me, really. That's all you do. And so all of it is right there at DavinaJones.com. Click on Great Camp.
Wow. And a lot of things on the internet, so get with it. Get with the program. Have you ever thought about taking this back to Jacksonville or Duval?
Let me tell
or
you.
Even where you went to school over at Daytona, Volusia County? I mean, there are 67 counties in Florida, and it seems like this can be replicated. I'm going to give you a suggestion right here on the radio. I'll do that.
I'll take it.
The Florida Association of School Superintendents is in my hometown. They have an office in Tallahassee, up north. That's where I'm from. I'm from up north. You can't tell my accent. Okay.
Florida.
Okay. Yes, I'm on the I-10 brothers. Okay. Florida Association of School Superintendents. Florida Association of School Boards. This needs to happen. This kind of thing needs to happen in each of Florida's 67 counties.
Yes.
That's from sea to shining sea.
Yes.
And I'm just putting it out there. I had the school superintendent from Hillsborough County on last week, gave him some suggestions. I'm going to follow up in an email, and it just needs to happen because it's good. I remember when you came a few years ago, talked about relationships, and here we are in February at that year, and I interviewed you on a cool day, and you were out at USF, and you've been at this a long time, and it shouldn't be the best kept secret. And I'm sure that with school, like the Hillsborough County Education Foundation, there are some students who need to be exposed to this so that they can communicate better. Their behavior will be modified more better, as we said up in Tallahassee. What say you to that?
That is my goal. That is my vision. In fact, I just met with a youth director from Lake Wells yesterday
Polk County.
And so, so we're getting ready to do Great Camp in Polk County at Shiloh Baptist Church. That's going to be, I think, a Thursday night from 6:30 to 9:30, Shiloh Baptist Church in Lake Wells. So they're going to host a Great Camp. So we're open. We will travel. We will make it happen. And you might say, well, how do you do that? Do you take all of these folks? Sometimes you don't realize how many treasures you have right in your own church or your own community, your own organization. So what I did with Shiloh, I went and I talked with the director and I calculated, who do you have? What are your resources? And the treasure was right there. All I have to do is create the framework for the camp. And we've got our excellent speakers, our dream team speakers right there next door. So it is possible for us to travel with Great Camp. We also have an individual that wants to help us maybe even make a virtual module for Great Camp so that some of the students can maybe have some Great Camp experiences online. So that's in the talks, and some things just take a little bit of time and certainly a little bit of investment, but it's possible. So what do I say to that? I say yes. We will take Great Camp wherever we can, because Dayle, this is what helped me. I know you're familiar with TOBA, Tampa Organization of Affairs.
Sure.
All right, so between TOBA, the Bethune-Cookman Alumni Association, all these different groups that would have an activity here, an activity there, that's what gave me the exposure and the belief that I could go to college. Otherwise, I had no clue. I mean, if really based on stats and community experience, as long as I graduated from high school and I didn't get pregnant before 16, I was already successful. So what TOBA did was to introduce me to possibilities through the oratorical competition, right? And then my church of God in Christ at the time, they had an oratorical competition. I did that. I did some youth retreat stuff with William Sanders. I mean, I could just name a list of community activities that were so key to helping me see the possibilities of my talent, my skill level, even though I was in special education.
Wow.
I was in special education to the point that when I went back to my high school counselor, and I won't say her name, I went back to her, yes, and I had won scholarship money from TOBA, and it was for college. So I didn't say to her, I have scholarship money. What I said was, I think I need to go to college, so what do I need to do? And I think I was a junior in high school, and she looked at my files, and she looked at me and said, I think you should do a trade school.
So still there were doubts.
There were doubts. She said I should do a trade school. But there were all these other community activities, right?
That sounds like a reverse psychology. And I've heard of people like D.L. Hughley and some other people said, some people used to say, well, Greene, you're not going to amount to much growing up north like I did. And I say, well, I guess, I've interviewed a few sheriffs and Jimmy Carter and school superintendent, a lot of, but somebody who, and one lady told me, she says, well, Greene, you were probably on the short school bus. Oh, no, you didn't say that about being on the short school bus. And I happened to win a real prestigious state award for doing some workforce things. And I just use that as a motivator because when people write you off, you end up rising to the occasion. And just to say, you don't know me. You don't know what I'm capable of. Nothing beats a failure but a try. Any shout-outs, Davina?
Oh my gosh, you caught me off guard. Shout-outs, oh my gosh. Okay, shout-outs to my parents. Yeah, I know, right? Shout-outs to my parents, my mother, my father, because, they just never gave up on us. They never gave up on us. Even if they might not have known where to go because they were surviving, right? 6 kids, they were surviving. But whenever I went to them to say, I think, can I try this? Can I do that? They never gave up. And that was so important. So certainly shout outs to, parents, but also shout outs to all of the community programs like Great Camp that got me here. So I've already said a shout out to Toba, shout out to Bethune-Cookman, Dr. McFadden over there, who said to me, you should get a PhD. And I'm thinking, do you know I was ESE? That just, it rhymes, but it's not the same thing. So shout out to all those people. William Saunders, who is a tremendous supporter with this current state of Great Camp. So, oh my gosh, I don't know how much time we have, but
well, we've got to wrap it up now.
Okay,
We've got to wrap it. We'll have
thank
you back.
everybody.
We thank you so much. In fact, I'm going to turn our mic down and just say, please consider committing a random act of kindness. This is Spectrum on this Cox Media Group station. My name is Dayle Greene, host of the program for 31 and a half years. Thank you so much for listening. Take care of yourselves, and we'll be back next week.
The Pinellas County Urban League is more than just a center that helps local citizens with energy bills and